Of deep concern is the growing practice of taking children to Japan. There are now many Australian children, perhaps in the hundreds. Is the Australian government aware of this practice?
Senator, we are aware of the issues in Japan with child custody and we use the term abduction.
Thank you. That's an accurate description. Is the Australian government aware that the Japanese government has promoted this practice actively through seminars as an option for parents in Australia?
I'm not aware of that, Senator.
First, this is a very, very distressing situation for many parents, and I've engaged with some, and their heartbreak is both completely understandable and clear and patent.
It's been drawn to my attention, I've got two issues. The first one is, it's been drawn to my attention a growing problem related to the breakdown of the family law system in Australia. Some children of a broken marriage are being taken by a parent or family member out of the country to avoid the implementation of court orders related to custody of the child and to prevent a parent from accessing the child or children of the relationship. Of deep concern is the growing practice of taking children to Japan, where local law does not assist or provide for the return of the child to the country of usual habitation. There are now many Australian children, perhaps in the hundreds, living in Japan, prevented from returning to their family, friends and home in Australia. Is the Australian government aware of this practice?
Senator, we are aware of the issues in Japan with child custody and we use the term abduction.
Thank you. That's an accurate description. Is the Australian government aware that the Japanese government has promoted this practice actively through seminars as an option for parents in Australia?
I'm not aware of that, Senator.
Thank you. What can be done by the Australian government by liaising with the Japanese government to have these children returned to Australia?
Senator, we have been very active on this issue in Japan for many years now. I know this personally, having been ambassador to Japan and having been involved in these issues, including direct conversations with ministers responsible for justice and parliamentarians and other advocates for child custody reform. The issue has been raised through different governments, I would say, at ministerial and indeed leader level. We have been encouraged by some movement in Japan towards modernising, I would say, custody arrangements. It's a major reform work that we have been advocating for. And I just finished by saying we welcome the passage of the legislative reforms that will allow for joint custody from mid-2026.
Thank you. So your efforts are ongoing, I take it?
Yes.
But there's some signs of hope in Japan.
Senator, can I just indicate first, if I may add to the Secretary's answer, and then I'll see if anyone can add specifically on the passage of the progress of the domestic reforms. First, this is a very, very distressing situation for many parents, and I've engaged with some, and their heartbreak is both completely understandable and clear and patent. And we continue to provide consular support for them. As Foreign Minister, I did believe it was important to advocate on their behalf, and I can tell you that I raised this issue personally with actually the former Foreign Minister Hayashi, as well as the next former Foreign Minister Kamikawa, so both predecessors in this. Previous Prime Ministers, while I have been in this job, we have encouraged them to find a solution to allow children to maintain meaningful relationships with both their parents. We were pleased to see some progress in terms of the domestic legislation, and Ms Casey may have more information, or others may have more information about that. But we understand there's more to be done, and I can say to you from the Foreign Minister and the Ambassador and the systems perspective, we continue to put our view about the importance of this and the experience of families in this situation.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Ms Adams.
I can take you through some of the things like there's been a submission to the Ministry of Justice in Japan. There was... Oh, you can do it, can you? Sorry, Craig can do it.
I was going to ask that, and I thought, knowing the Japanese who I've dealt with myself, they're very polite and very conservative people, so I didn't want to put you on the spot because it might jeopardise the negotiations.
Very kind. I think we can talk about the public things we have done, so I think Mr McLaughlin's about to do that.
So, as the Minister and the Secretary have outlined, Senator, Japan has introduced legislative reforms, has implemented those. They'll come into effect in mid-2026, and they will effectively allow for joint custody of children. We are continuing to work with Japan to encourage, if you like, the implementation of these laws in a way that would actually allow for children to have relationships with both parents. But of course, the actual outcome in individual cases will actually be determined by the circumstances of individual parents and children, and so they'll need to continue their work and to seek their Japanese legal advice in relation to that. It builds on, this legislation builds on actually a long period of advocacy. The Minister has outlined her work. I'd add to that the Attorney General, Mr Dreyfus, exchanged letters on the issue in October last year with former Justice Minister Koizumi, also with former Justice Minister Saito in March 2023. The Embassy also supported a visit by the Honourable Justice Victoria Benedeo of the Federal Circuit and Family Court to Japan, and that was in April this year, to actually share some of our experiences with the implementation of family law and how we deal with some of these matters to if you like, help Japan's system sort of see the benefits of reform. Our ambassador in Japan, I dare say the Secretary, when she was ambassador in Japan, was also engaged with officials in the Japanese.